Welcome back to the Sure Sales Group Show, episode 31. I have our first guest, Tim Schatzberger, owner of Homeland Septic Consulting. And we connected years ago. He's been helping our clients with their well, septic, anything environmental related inspections. And I asked him to come on the show just because I know a lot of agents, a lot of consumers, homeowners, they don't know about wells and septics and environmental testing. So thanks so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.
So Tim, let's jump right into it. You own Homeland Septic Consulting. A lot of the professionals use them because they're priced right, excellent service, and protect our clients. The septic system, why don't you just tell us what is a septic system?
So for those that don't have the public utility of a sewer line, we have a septic system. And in this case, in say Phoenix or northern Baltimore County, we have a home that has one pipe leaving it. All the water from the house goes in this pipe into a septic tank. Might be 1,000 gallons or 1,500 gallons. And the job of the septic tank is to separate the solids, right? So whether we're flushing a toilet or using a garbage disposal, there's going to be solids that come with that water. And these solids either fall to the bottom of the tank or they're light enough with the toilet paper and the grease to rise to the top. And it leaves a clean zone of water in the middle with this tank, which this tank is allowed to filter out to the absorption area. And the absorption area is the second part of a septic system, which is also a big risk to a home buyer because these are filters that fail over time and can be pretty expensive to maintain.
All right, let me run that back to you to make sure I got it. There's a septic tank, which is a tank, 1,000 gallon, 1,500 gallon, that all of the sewer pipes run into and garbage disposal?
There's usually one single line coming out of the house where all the household waste runs off of. So that single line leaves the house and goes in the septic tank.
Got it. Once it's in the tank, it gets filtered and then filters out all the solids, which is the waste, toilet paper, whatever you're flushing down the toilet, whatever's in the garbage disposal. And then the clean stuff goes into an absorption system?
Yes, and we should say cleaner, right?
Cleaner stuff, okay.
And this tank being a filter traps the solids, and that's why a homeowner has to get this tank pumped out every so often, whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5 years to empty these solids that the tank has trapped over time.
Right.
Otherwise, they will escape out to your absorption system, which is where the water filtrates into the ground and gets away from the property. And that filter, if it gets clogged with the solids, is going to fail sooner than expected. And they all fail sooner or later, but if you're not maintaining the system, it's going to fail in a shorter amount of time, and the price to remediate or replace these systems is getting more and more expensive.
How long do they normally last? Just curious.
When they're designed, I'm going to tell you that they're designed to last about 30 to 40 years.
That's a long time.
And that is dependent on the soils and the type of system and so forth. But yeah, it's a long-term investment once it's put in the ground.
So the reason we get hooked up is because a lot of times people are buying a house that has a septic system, which we just learned is a tank and an absorption system, and you guys go and inspect it. How does that process work?
Well, on the septic side, we offer one of two evaluations. One is more of an evaluation, the second is an inspection. And the evaluation is kind of determining information where we use probes and mirrors to gather evidence and run water through the system and make sure the components of the system are in place. We try to probe the absorption system to see if it's holding water, and if it is, if it's getting towards the end of its expected life. On the inspection side, which our definition of an inspection is looking at all the components of a septic system, and that's difficult because these things are below grade. We might have a couple access points, but for an inspection, we really need to do more digging, and then we use something, it's a camera, where we can stick down into the tank and follow the lines out to the next stage of the absorption system, which is a distribution box and then a drain field system. So not only do we get a visual of the entire system during this inspection, but we also map it out in a report. So the camera has a locator on it, and then we have a machine we can hold above, and we can see where the camera is underground, so we can map the system, and also tells us the depth too. And that's important when we have to dig up a distribution box. If it's 2 feet deep, no big deal. If it's 8 feet deep, well, now we're talking machinery, and in real estate, sellers are not always comfortable with that. So
well, if I'm buying a house, I want to know where the septic system is, how's it running, how deep is it? I don't want to put a pool on top of it. Like, you need to know all this stuff. These aren't inspections that are like, they come out for 10 minutes, nah, you're looking good. We're going to assess.
There's a lot of due diligence involved. Part of the process is getting an interview back from the homeowner to kind of understand what their habits were, so we can inspect the system under the statistics that they've been telling us.
Like how many people
and so forth. We also get records from the county. So part of that, interesting enough, is that kind of reserve area. So the county has usually 10,000 square feet marked off in these maps that you might look at, and the current septic system might only take 1/3 of that. Well, the plan for this extra space is when this system fails, we need room to put a second system and a third system.
And it's gonna fail in 30 to 40 years.
Sooner or later it will fail, and if we have a pool over that or a deck, you're not supposed to have that over your reserve area, and that can create some complications if that's happened. So that's something else you can find out with the inspection.
These are critical things. As a good agent, what you want to do is protect your buyer. Or if you're a seller and you're smart and maybe you want to get this done ahead of time to make your home more marketable and make your buyer feel safe, to show off, here's the deal with our well and septic. Well, we're talking about septic now, but I think we got septic, tank, absorption system. There's a lot of due diligence. You guys do that.
Yes, proudly.
Anytime, a lot of times, if you're on septic, you're also on well. If you're not like on that public utility, if it's not public water and sewer, like a lot of the stuff in Baltimore City is, if you don't have that public utility hookup, a lot of times you have to use your own septic system to control all that wastewater, and you have your own well.
Yes.
So what is a well? I mean, I know it's pulling water out of the ground, but give me the...
Yeah. So again, you know, we're out where the public utilities aren't being given to us. We don't have a pipe run to our house to give us water. We have to drill a hole in the ground and basically find water. And we're not drilling down 20 or 30 feet and finding this, you know, this surface water or ground water table. We're trying to drill down into the bedrock and get some clean water for potable use.
What's potable mean? That's a good word.
Drinkable. Right?
Okay,
Drinkability
potable,
of
yeah.
water. So not only do we not want to have bacteria and nitrates in it, but we don't want our water to be, you know, look like chocolate milk. We want it to look clear and drinkable. And most lenders that do require a water sample are going to require that potability sample. The government lenders, FHA, VA, they require a little bit more with a FHA sample.
Let me jump in on that. So that's really critical. A lot of times for the buyer to even be able to buy the house, you have to prove that this water is potable.
Yes.
Without all that stuff in it. So the well system is just, it's a hole through the bedrock where we're getting potable water and it gets piped to the house with like a pump.
Yep. So yeah, this well is basically a collection source where the cracks in the bedrock are bringing water into the well, and then the pump is generally sitting about 10% off the bottom of the well to pump that water up to the house, and then there's a pressure tank in the house to put pressure to you know, the second and third floor.
So if you've ever been in a house, which I'm sure you have, if it's not your own house, a friend, family member, coworker, they have like all these tanks. That has to do with the well coming in and cleaning it and softening it and any number of things.
Yes.
So you inspect wells. What does a well inspection look like? Because I know like you can inspect the fact that it's working, but also the quality of the water. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen water inspection results come back and there's like some bad stuff in the water.
There can be, yes.
Yeah.
So to break down the inspections, there's two things a buyer should be worried about. One is the water quality, right? Is there bacteria, is there nasty stuff in there? The second is water quantity. You know, do we have enough water to supply, you know, the house before that?
That's called the yield, right?
The yield test, correct. And that's regulated in Baltimore County since 1983, where they require us to have pretty stringent licensing, and the test has to go a minimum of 3 hours and sometimes as long as 6. So it's a lot to prepare for. But the goal of this test is to basically drain this well, pump all the reserve of the well water out, so we can see how much water from the ground is actually falling into the well, and that by definition is your well yield.
So you're looking for, on the inspections, essentially it's potability and yield?
Yes.
And yield meaning it can go however many gallons a second?
Gallons per minute, yes. And
gallons per minute.
The Baltimore County law says that they want it to be at least 1 gallon per minute. And if it's under that, the seller is obligated to remediate.
See, these inspections are so important. I think on episode 29, I was talking about inspections. We talked about home inspectors doing structural, mechanical, typical stuff you'd expect a home inspector to do. This is totally separate. This is some underground, heavy duty. You want to know what's going on so you don't find out that I don't have clean water, I don't have enough water, or there's a tank full of waste that's about to explode in my backyard.
You know, it's these unseen systems that sometimes we forget about.
Well, I know you do sewer lines too, and just kind of the bottom line here is we do, you know, this year we're on track to do 450 homes. I'd say 150 of them are probably on well and septic, so we need to have a resource, and we're so fortunate enough to have direct communication with the owner of a company who's got 18 and growing employees who's servicing kind of our whole footprint, which is central Maryland and the counties that surround Baltimore City. So real quick before we wrap up, I know you do sewer lines and some other things. If you want to give them a wrap up?
Yep, so when we got the cameras to do our septic inspections, right, with the locator and all, we naturally needed to get in the sewer line inspection business. You know, it was a demand that was already out there, but we now have the equipment to do it. And the sewer line inspection, we'll trace out the sewer line, and again, we can map it, and we give a little map with our report. But, you know, you find all these little small things, like little dips in the line or tree roots getting inside. And, you know, it might be half a backup today, but that could be a full backup in 6 months. And sometimes it's not so expensive to remediate. Sometimes it's really, really expensive to remediate.
But the knowledge is, you want to know. You want to know whether or not you're going to be able to win the negotiation and have the seller pay for it or the buyer's paying for it. It's just good to bring it to light. So real quick, when we wrap up, on average, because I know there's different sizes and you know, lot size, tank size, depth, all that. What are we looking at for inspections for these three things?
So the septic evaluation is about $300. The septic inspection with the camera, that's $450. A potability water sample is $125. If you jump up to that FHA with a government lender, you're looking at $205 for the FHA sample. The Baltimore County well yield, again regulated, that's $390, and that could be an all-day job, 6 hours. Outside of Baltimore County, it's not regulated, and we have some other options that are a little bit cheaper than that. And then the sewer line inspection is $225.
So essentially, if you add all that up, you can get it all done for like $1,500 if you're doing the most expensive, extensive inspections.
Yes.
So it's a no-brainer. You want to protect your investment. I'm going to link up everything, all the contact information for Homeland Septic, for Tim and his team. Thanks again, man.
Thank you very much.
You've helped make me and a lot of people at the Sure Group look good. So
thank you very much.
I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, I think I mentioned like $1,500. We added it up. Tim educated me a little bit. You're either getting a septic or a sewer. You're not going to do both, because if you're getting a septic, it includes a sewer. All of these to go full-blown total protection for when you're buying a home, or if you just want to know as a seller, and it might make sense to know this before you put your home on the market. $965 that can save you tens of thousands of dollars. Again, Homeland Septic, thanks so much again. That's a wrap.